Welcome to Spectrum Days, the podcast where we ruin our childhood memories of games we used to play with me, Chris, and my cousin Phil.
Hello.
Hey, Phil. How you doing?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm good. So, what game are we going to try and remember today? Is that Trans Am on the Spectrum?
No, try again.
Scuba dive?
Do a barrel roll.
Ah, Red Baron on the BBC. All right. Okay, Starwing. Or Starfox.
Or Starfox. For you, for the purposes of this, as seeing as you're in America, I think you should call it Starfox.
Okay.
And I will call it Starwing.
Okay.
The emphasis on wing. Just to annoy people listening. Starwing.
Right. Well, I'm going to need you to tell everyone, all of our listeners, all about this game because I'm pretty sure I have played it, but there's various different versions, and
not really.
Jog my memory.
We're just talking about the first one. Yeah. No, there are follow-ups, but for the purposes of the video, we shall be talking about the first one, which came out on the Super Nintendo. What?
Why do you insist on pronouncing the 9?
Because it's Starwing and Nintendo.
Anyway, can we get on with... we've lost everyone. Everyone who's tuned in, they're listening in their cars, driving along. Oh, yeah, great new episode of Spectrum Days.
Spectrum Days. I love Spectrum Days.
This will be the game. They'll finally be happy.
What game is it they're going to be talking about? Starfox. Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
We haven't looked at a Super Nintendo game yet. Super Nintendo is probably, I'd say, my favourite console. But then that changes from day to day. 1 minute is this, 1 minute is the other. But it's up there for me, the Super Nintendo. It's one I have a lot of love for, and this is a game I have a lot of love for. If you don't know Starwing, as we call it over here, it's a space shooter. Nowadays, I've got in my notes here that we'd call it an on-rail shooter, which I'm fairly sure we didn't call it that back in the day. And in fact, I looked up a review on the official Nintendo magazine, which was the offshoot of Mean Machines, and they didn't mention on-rail shooter. So I think that's more of a modern term. It's a sort of 3D style shooter, polygons and what have you. Some of it's first person in a sort of cockpit. Mostly it's third person, so you're behind your ship. The reason it's called Starwing over in the PAL regions is because over here, I believe it's a German company called Starfox, complained about how similar sounding Starfox was, that's why apparently it got changed to Starwing. Right. It came out in February of '93 in Japan, whilst we had to wait for months for it to come over in the UK. We didn't get it until June of '93. But therein lies the tale, really. That's why this game was so massively hyped, because we did know about it as Starfox. As Chris was saying to me, I'm not sure whether you were saying to me before we started recording, that you always knew it as and called it Starfox.
That's what I think, but I definitely did play this. I didn't own the console, so I played it, but I didn't own the console. So if I played it maybe on John's console. But then what I did play was Star Fox 64 3D on the Nintendo 3DS.
Good version of it. Yes, which is the version from the Nintendo 64 updated to 3D on 3DS. Yes.
Right, so it's essentially the same game.
Yeah.
It's essentially,
it is the same game, but 3D-fied. Yeah.
Right. So that's the one I owned, and I definitely played a lot of. But I didn't get very far.
No, what?
I don't even like games. I just play them. I just buy them, play them a little bit. Oh yeah, look how great it's been made now. I love playing them, but I don't know. I can't remember getting too far on it.
Well, if it was on your brother's, you might have maybe not had much access to it as if you'd had the Super Nintendo yourself. But as I was saying, because we had that few months wait, which actually wasn't that long back then. We've mentioned this in other podcasts before. Sometimes it was a year or 2 years for some games from them being in Japan or whatever, or America, to before we got them. But that was a good 3 months. And what with the way magazines worked, particularly back then, as I've got in my notes here, we were right in the middle there of that battle between the Mega Drive and the Super Nintendo. 1993, lots of other good games are coming out. Batman Returns, Buster Bustaloo, Street Fighter 2 Turbo was massive. That all came out around that sort of summer time-ish of 93. And we were mid-cycle then. Nowadays you'd call it a cycle. So that's sort of 6-7 years that a console's life, something like that. By 1993, the SNES was probably, 3 years old in the UK, something like that. So we were right in the middle of it, and this is when all the good games are coming out. It's when everyone had got used to how to program on the machines. So really good stuff was coming out, and it also meant the magazines were importing stuff and were doing reviews of games that weren't available in the country. Prior to that, they would do perhaps previews of games that were available abroad that hadn't come out over here. But by 93, almost all the magazines had caught on that, right, you've got to be first to do the review. So therefore, you've got the import version. You do an actual review of it and give your score. So like I mentioned, the official Nintendo magazine, I think they gave it 93% or something like that. They gave it a really high mark, but they actually reviewed it as Starfox and called it Starfox, and all the pictures they showed on there, the artwork, the box, the in-game graphics, all said Starfox. So that's probably why you know it as Starfox, because that's what everyone was calling it for about 3 or 4 months before we even got it.
Well, or it might be that I owned Star Fox 64 on the Nintendo, on the 3DS when I was about 37.
Yeah, that's possibly it. Because I think this is the only game where the Starwing game. I think, once it then came out, the other versions of the series, I think they dropped the Starwing name. I think it was then Starfox from then on. Yeah.
Because how old were you when this came out then?
Well, 93. I'd have just been about to turn 18 when it came out.
Yeah.
And this is when I was right in the middle of working in the industry, buying and selling all this stuff secondhand. This was working in the shop.
Oh, so how did it do in the shop? Was there a lot of?
Well, this is the funny thing. We always try and get some memories from the shop days. They were heady days, and my memory is a bit blurry on some of it for one reason or another, because it was a long time ago. It was the 90s. It was the 90s, man. And but this game, I do distinctly remember it appearing. And when I say appearing, I mean a customer bringing it in. We obviously relied on customers bringing in second-hand games. We didn't really sell anything new apart from the odd peripheral, controllers, batteries or some things like that. But the actual consoles and games were all second-hand items that were being brought in. So usually we didn't see stuff for a while. But this game, amazingly, actually came in the day of release. A lady, and I can still picture her bring it in. It was probably only an hour or two after I'd been up into the town centre. There was a big game shop in the big shopping mall in the town, which actually didn't last. It
Shopping
didn't
centre.
actually last. So I was just doing that for our American
Sorry,
audience.
shopping centre.
You just translate for me, Chris.
Yeah, sorry.
Feel free to jump in at any moment.
Shopping mall. There weren't any shopping malls when we were kids. They were.
I crossed the sidewalk and went into the mall, and I got myself
on your skateboard.
On the skate, yeah, and got myself a 10-gallon gulp Slurpee. And yeah, this big game shop that was there, and I was friends with the guys that ran it, and I went in. They had massive TVs that you'd never be allowed to do this now, massive CRTs that were hung from the ceiling in this place. I don't know how they got away with it. I'm sure it wasn't right, but because it was a proper game shop in the sense that they were selling stuff new, and we were a second hand in the market stall, they had Starwing there. Playing on screen, and it was full of people, and they were all looking at it, and I can distinctly remember the guy running it going, "Oh, I don't know why they're all so excited about it. It's not that great." And we're like, but everyone else is like totally absorbed by it. We've been waiting for it for months, and I couldn't wait. I knew I wanted it, and the reviews had been absolutely amazing and top drawer for it. So ran back down to the market, all excited, having seen it on the day of release. And lo and behold, must have been after school hours. So when the kids had kicked out, this mother turned up with her son's copy of Starwing, still partly shrink wrapped. So he'd literally just cut open the end, presumably. I don't know the story.
I want to know the backstory
over the years.
I said to him, Darren, this is $64.99. It is 1p off being £65. Do you understand that is a lot of pocket money, Darren? Yes, ma'am, he goes. And I said to him, it is only June. Okay, it is a long time until it is Christmas. It is nearly 7 months until you're going to get another game. Are you going to play this game every day? Are you going to make it last? Yes, ma'am, he says to me. What happens? Gets home from school, opens it up, completes it. Little sod. So here I am down here trying to sell it. How much are you going to give me for it? That'll do. Anyway, Starfox, Starwing, whatever the hell it's called, he completed it.
Yeah. Over the years, you see, it could have been that he was a little sod, and she said, "Right, you're not having it."
Was she fuming?
And took it down the market to sell it. Well, no, she wasn't. Or it just simply was that they couldn't play it. They might have bought it for a 6-year-old who just couldn't make head and tail of it, or he completed it. I actually do think that it was someone who got it that morning. I think it was, because that happened more than anything else. People would get stuff in the morning and complete it.
How much did she want for it?
Well, this is why I really remember this story, is because this never happened, and it never happened again, because we were so keen. And the boss turned up, and I said, "Look, this woman's coming," because I had no idea what to pay for it, because it was totally unheard of. It was still warm out of the Super Nintendo that morning. Do you know what I mean? We never, ever, ever saw stuff day of release. And I said, "Well, what do we do?" And that game was 65 quid.
Wow.
Which is
back in those days
phenomenally expensive.
No.
Yeah, it was 60, 65. Yeah.
Well, with inflation, that's about £3,000 on a Spectrum.
Yeah, at least 3.5. But yeah. And what we did is we paid £5 less than she'd paid for it.
Wow.
Just so that we could have it on the shelf day of release at £5 less than that shop that I'd been in to go and see, where they've been showing it to everyone on the big screens and everything.
Wow.
Because it was a massive plus for us to have it there on the shelf, cheaper than you could buy it for new in the shops.
She might have just lifted it out of the other shop.
I should think, probably did.
Yeah. Or she bought it for her son to celebrate something, and he just turned around and said, "Mum, I got an Amiga. You know, I've got a decent computer."
Yeah, I found the official Nintendo review that I was talking about. It is available online. I'll try and put the link below if you're watching us on our YouTube channel.
Ooh, do you have a
yeah, $64.99.
That's just incredible.
they're actually saying the release was April, so I think they must have been talking about Starfox literally in the sense that they're talking about the import rather than the official Starwing that came out in June.
That's crazy money.
Well, it was. But the thing is, then, as I just mentioned, Street Fighter 2 Turbo came out, I don't know, a month or two after that, that around that time. Well, that was about 70 quid. I bought the one in the tin, which came with a pin badge, and it was in a tin, and that was about 75 quid. I mean, it was insane. But there's a good reason, Chris, why Starwing was 65 quid, and that's because of the Super FX chip.
It's not to do with the capitalist system.
No,
market.
It isn't.
No,
you Marxist Trotskyite.
I don't want to start any kind of beef against different systems because I know the socials like all that beef stuff, and we're not the kind of podcast where we do pictures of us going, gurning.
I want a couple of 64s crap.
Yeah, gurning. Like, what's the problem with retro? Yeah, they were fun times. People sending, that kind of scene, the demo scene, and yeah, you'd always get an envelope dropped through the post with some load of demos in. And go off programming your own Starfields. Oh, those were the days. Couldn't do any of that. Couldn't do that when you're spending £65 on a Starfox.
No, but you did have a good game.
Oh, that's true. That's true. So it was good.
And you could sell it again. And you could sell it again to the idiots down the market. And they'd only give you a £5 less and you just paid for it an hour before. I bet that woman's still talking about
that. Yeah.
I bought Starwing. I took it, I played it, completed it, took it down the market, and it cost me £5.
Completed it. How old was she? Because you just imagined it was her son's. She might have been married to Sir Clive. He might have completed it.
It could have been. Yes. She was quite a busty, blonde sort that looked like she liked rich, geeky.
Did she roll up in a C5?
Men? A roller. She rolled up in a roller.
Blinged out C5.
She just put a gloved hand out the window. How much for this? Do you want to exchange it or sell it, madam? Sell it for cash.
Cash money. Cash money.
But it was expensive because the Super FX chip, mate. That's why it was expensive.
Yeah, because it didn't have a good chip in the first place then. On the Amiga, you had everything already in it.
Well, that's the weird thing. The guys that did it, this is Argonaut. We're slowly getting wrestling this is back to the podcast we're bloody trying to do.
Tell us about who made. Tell us all about. Yeah, now I realise why we were thinking about the Amiga because it looks like there was some proper programmers from the Amiga
guys.
world.
I mean, I mean, this is Jez San. God bless him. That makes it sound like he's dead. He's not. Well, I don't think he is. Sorry if he is.
Hello, I'm Jez San, and as you can see, I'm not actually dead, and I'm still involved in the games industry, although mainly with online gambling. In fact, I've got an OBE for my contributions to the video game industry. So news of my death has been greatly exaggerated. Unlike that bloke who wrote that song, Don't Worry, Be Happy, he's definitely dead. And Elton John, or is it the other guy? Anyway, Starfox, Starwing, I made it. Argonaut Software. Started back in 1982 with Jez San, and over in Britain, we didn't have the computer crash that you had there over in America, and basically every kid in the country had a computer and was making games. I mean, everyone was programming. Basically, that was sort of the scene that was going on. So we had a lot of young people who were keen to make games, make 3D stuff and things like that. And I say Jez San started this, he was a kid, he was like 16, 17 or something like that, and employed a load of other 16, 17-year-old kids, including Dylan Cuthbert, who'd worked on Star Glider on the Amiga. Did you have Star Glider 1 and 2?
Do you remember that?
Can't remember.
No, don't remember it. It's sort of 3D, very, very like Star Fox, but on the sort of 3 frames a second that the silly paltry Amiga could cope with. That's not fair. No, it was quite good. And yeah, he did some demo stuff, and that got seen by Nintendo, and they got him over there. Anyway, long story short, they started making stuff for Nintendo, including the Game Boy title X, which I haven't played, but that was a 3D style game. They liked the idea of doing a 3D game, and they got them working on it, but they explained that, look, we can only really do it. It needs some more oomph, and they suggested that they make a chip that actually goes into the cartridge. And amazingly, Nintendo said, yeah, gave them a load of money. And they went off and made the Super FX chip. Basically, it was sort of, I suppose, a modern equivalent, a bit like updating your graphics card, which is something you can't really do with consoles now, because the way the port worked on the Super Nintendo meant that you could have what you wanted in that cartridge, and you were plugging it straight in. It's not like, say, in the old days of USB, where it would be incredibly slow plugging something into the computer. But the difference between plugging something in by USB to the computer or actually opening up the computer and actually putting a solid state drive in, it's that difference. So they were able to move stuff around a lot quicker, the graphics, the drawing of the polygons and all that sort of stuff. So it allowed for them to be able to make a fast, back then, moving load of polygons on a screen to create the 3D game that is Star Fox, or Starwing on the Nintendo.
Do you have a magazine, you say? You've got a magazine there?
Yeah, as I say, the one I dug out on, not physical, but one online, says the official Super Nintendo one. I mean, where's old Jazzer? He's always good for a laugh, isn't he? Here we are. This is the most astonishing console game I have ever seen. Using unbelievably fast, get that, unbelievably fast, super smooth and ultra-realistic polygon 3D graphics, Star Fox is a game you'd normally expect to see running on a mega-fast, souped-up PC. But here it is, running on the Super NES, and it's amazing! Not just because of the stunning visuals, the sound is superbly atmospheric, and it plays brilliantly too. Level 1 is fairly straightforward, you'll be pleased to hear, Chris. And shouldn't take... This is brilliant, this is brilliant. Level 1 is fairly straightforward and shouldn't take more than a couple of days to complete. And this is Julian, I'm good at every game Jazz Rignall, don't forget.
Oh my!
But the higher levels are really tough and require plenty of skill to master.
Oh no!
Because the whole game is so impressive, you'll really want to keep on playing to see what's next.
No, I won't.
And there you will. You'll get through your rage, and you'll want to see it all. Well, and there are certainly some fabulous things later on, and some great effects, and mightily impressive baddies to test your mettle. Star Fox is a truly superlative title and is a showpiece of what the Super NES is capable. And considering that this is the first game to use the Super FX chip, I can't wait to see what's next. Mind-blowing racing, flying, space combat, and even virtual realistic style adventure games could all be created. Gimme, gimme, gimme. And you go, oh,
surely they did a tutorial. Don't tell me they spent all the budget.
I think this is the first game that there is. There is actually a tutorial. I've just remembered.
I was going to say, don't tell me they spent all the money, all the budget. Oh yeah, let's do a whole new chip, and then like What about tutorial? Nah, that's not proper.
There's a tutorial. I've just remembered. Don't miss it when you blooming turn on the game.
Yeah, I know.
Like missing the whole other game that's within Tetris on the Game Boy. Okay.
I don't. Yeah, but wait a minute. Can you just skip it by just tapping all the buttons? The tutorial, or are you forced to do it?
No. You choose to do it. There's
no. Wait a
practice.
minute. That's not a real onboarding tutorial. Like nowadays, most games they embed it in the game so you can't skip it. So I'm your type of guy who's going to complain that there's no tutorial. But if you give me the choice, I'll just skip it.
Because you're an idiot.
You got to make it so that I can't skip. Not force me, but make it a compelling experience. But if you just say, because I'm just going to, I run it and just tap. Well, so I think that's about it, right? That's ready. We're ready to pause.
Yeah.
And give it a go.
Let's do that, I reckon. Right, folks. Look, normally I put a link below where you can play this. But I suggest you buy a Super Nintendo. It's that good. So, go and find yourself a way to play Starwing, everybody. I'm sure most of you have probably still got a Super Nintendo lying around, or if you're posh, middle class like Chris, you've probably bought yourself an Ambernick by now. And you can emulate it on that, I should think. And it's also available on the Switch. You can play it on there if you've got the Nintendo account thingy. There's loads of ways to play it. So anyway, there you are, folks. Yeah, go and play it. We're going to go off and play it. We'll be a few days, but for you, it'll just be a few seconds, and we shall return after this jingle.
Congratulations on reaching the middle of the podcast. Or if you're watching us on YouTube, congratulations on reaching the middle of the video. Whilst Chris and John and Phil are off playing today's game, you can also do the same by using the link below if you're watching us on our YouTube channel. Don't forget, you can follow us on Twitter and you can friend us on Facebook by simply looking up Spectrum Days. Don't forget to give us 5 stars if you are listening to us on the podcast, or give us a thumbs up if you're here on YouTube. And also comment below on what game you'd like to see next. And as if by magic, the lads are back to give you their opinion on today's game.
And we're back. Hola, primo Christopher.
Hola, primo Phil. ¿Qué tal? ¿Cómo estás?
Ipa.
Vamos a hacer todo este capítulo en español.
Un poco.
Vamos a hablar de Starwing. Starfox.
Can we do it in English? No, you do it in Spanish. I'll do it in English.
He terminado el juego. ¿Hasta qué nivel has llegado? ¿En qué sistema has jugado?
You can explain to the boys and girls listening why actually we've been away for an awful long time. I know it's only been seconds for all you lovely people at home listening. Why have we been away for so long? Playing the game, he says, heavily inverted commas.
Porque estabas enfermo. Con un gripe.
No. It's because you were playing the wrong game. It's nothing to do with the technical difficulties.
It's not true. As our Spanish fans will now understand, it's because you've been away with the flu.
It's nothing to do with that. What happened? What game were you playing?
Starfox game.
You've been playing the N64.
I think I was just watching an anime
game, haven't you?
Yeah, I might have been.
You were playing.
Yeah, it wasn't much. It wasn't much better.
So in a funny kind of way, we've covered pretty much the whole series. Accidentally, Chris has been playing.
I watched a bit of anime as well, a bit of an animated series as well that they did that I didn't know.
Oh, I've missed that.
Well, something. It was on YouTube.
On what?
YouTube.
Es bueno, es YouTube.
Come on. So did you play the right game?
I did, because I kind of instigated this.
Know it all.
Well, it's my jam, man. I love it. You when you
love it.
Yeah, I
love it.
I still love it. I still
really?
love Starwingfox.
I can't believe it. It's just not old enough, is it? This game. It's almost. I mean, I'm not so sure if it fits my remit. I mean, it's so close to being a modern proper game that it disappoints me. And I guess that's a bit my feeling on anything that we've done on 16-bit onwards, basically. Anything that's not Spectrum has that kind of feel.
You haven't said of any of the other games that they're too modern of a game, though. That's almost sort of a backhanded compliment. I mean, you are saying that Starfox, Starwing kind of broke the mold of the 16-bit games. I mean, it is nothing like R-Type, which is the other shooter that we covered.
That's true. It's closer to Space Harry.
But it so isn't. It really
is. It's a third-person shooter. Well, the difference is that you can flip your wings and you can put some brakes on and you can boost forward a bit. That's the only difference.
And super missile bombs.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, as you know, those are a waste of time for me, because that's how I would have
straight away
button 3 times.
I'll assume this is the fire button. Oh, it
exactly.
is. How many of those have I got? Oh, none. That was it.
This is a glorified, that Death Race game on the Spectrum.
Oh man.
It's just like, all those trees. You're on the back of a motorbike, all the trees, you're driving in fast through a forest, dodging left and right. That's essentially what Starfox is.
Jesus.
Except you can go up and down.
Whoa. I have a funny feeling that Shigeru Miyamoto might have something to say about this.
Woohoo! It's me, Shigeru Miyamoto!
Spectrum Days Games We Played would like to apologise for that previous sketch. Nintendo of America and Japan have asked us in writing to stop using images of Miyamoto-san. And they have asked us to point out that he does not sound like an Italian plumber. We apologise unreservedly. We are very sorry. We return you now to Spectrum Days Games We Played, where they're looking at Starwing. I've completed it.
Yeah, is Death Race or Death Chase? Ooh. Am I confused? On the Spectrum,
I know the game you're on about. Now you said 2 names. I couldn't tell you which one it is. We're being shouted at by a million Spectrum people right now. I can hear the vitriol as they shout and throw things at the screen for us getting that wrong. That's an archetypal Spectrum game, and we don't know the name of it.
Well, Death Chase, 1983, vehicular combat game. Someone's called it a vehicular combat game.
You're just down on everything. You don't like Starfox. What's wrong with you?
Oh, come on. Tell me how much you loved it. Make me, take me there. Take me there to the Paradise City.
Well, the grass is green.
The grass is green.
Are pretty. No, don't sing that, because we'll get demonetized. Not that we're monetized anyway, because that was a very, very close rendition to the actual song. I suspect if you Shazammed that, it would come up with it.
Well, I mean, because Starfox does have green grass.
Does it? I'm too busy enjoying the very fast-paced, amazing 3D action of this visceral shooter, instead of being a miserable old git, barely typing in the wrong name of the game with his massive thumbs into his amber nick, which is designed for 5-year-olds. That's why you don't like anything anymore. Just hammering away with your stumpy hands. You can't even type the right name in.
Look, my theory that I'm beginning to develop is just
You
is
don't
that
like
the,
games.
the spectrum is well. There's that. I don't like it. The spectrum is so far removed. Those games are so far removed, and also, and we spoke about this. I don't have such a nostalgic feeling for this game because I didn't. I did have it on the DS. Although who knows what kind
That was
of
the version you
Why don't they just
flipping
call
played. That was the remake of Starfox
Yeah.
64. So the game you accidentally played and said to me, "This Phil in a text, Phil, this is rubbish. Why are we reviewing this?" And I heard you playing in the back. I thought, that's not the right game. So you actually liked Starfox 64, but the remake on the 3DS.
Yeah. I don't know. Did I not like that
You
one?
said that you did. You said you liked the 3DS one.
Well, when I played, well, I mean, when I had it on the DS,
3DS.
yeah. I don't know. Maybe 3DS. Maybe I played it.
Oh man.
Okay, but coming back to play it today, what do you think of it now?
Oh.
What do you think now? Has it stood the test of
This is a
time?
real tough one for me.
We've been talking for 10 minutes now.
I've been trying to avoid it.
Don't tell me you're going to say you didn't actually like it now.
Well, thanks for listening in, everyone. And join us next week where we'll be looking at the new...
Don't tell me you didn't actually like it.
I did...
There we go. And tell me it's like Space Harrier. It's the same thing.
No, it's great. No, I loved every 10 minutes of it I played. I loved... I have one or two issues with it now, I suppose.
Interesting.
I put it on, played it, and completed it immediately. But it takes about, I don't know, 20 minutes, I think, on the easy level. I don't know whether you notice there's different levels, the branching levels.
Yeah.
One down the middle
that,
is the sort of the easy route, which, and I did. I put it on and completed it straight away because I used to play it a lot. I really did. It's one of my favourite games, as we mentioned in the first half of the podcast.
It's just random. You just blast. You don't even control where you're shooting. It's just they just shoot and spin around and.
Yeah, you see, you haven't grasped the finesse of that game. There is little things that are hidden. Like the very first stage, you've got twin blasters that are hidden in the sort of buildings that you fly through. So you can go over, go right over to the side of the screen, which is why I argue it's nowhere near the same as in Space Harrier, or Limited Harrier, as it should be called. Not space. There's nothing space about it. You're totally limited on Space Harrier. But this, you can move around a lot more. There is a lot more scope to use the screen. Yes, technically nowadays it would probably be called a, what is it they call it, this type of shooter, on-rails shooter. But you actually do have the on-rails section is maneuverable. You can maneuver around the screen a lot more than you do with Space Harrier. And there are the bonuses, the extra bombs that you'll need to pick up because you no doubt use them immediately. And they put... and as the game goes on, it opens up. I did have to laugh earlier on today that you sent a message. I think it must have been 2 o'clock in the morning or something. As if those of you who don't listen, normally we are in different time zones. He's over there in America, and I'm over here in England. He sent me a message. Why on level 2 does it become first person? In a spaceship, like, well, why not? It's a shoot 'em up game set in space. I mean, why wouldn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Because it's just got me used to fly. I mean, actually, everyone, there's a tutorial for this game as well. You don't have to.
How long did you play the tutorial? Not realising it wasn't the game.
I want a tutorial. It's so
tutorial
boring.
for about an hour. God, this is boring. Nothing's happening.
I don't want a tutorial like that. Right. I mean, just get me straight into the game.
Every bloody game. I don't know what the buttons are, and there's no tutorial. First game that has very clearly shows you the buttons and several different choices of button layout and a training part of the game, and you complain.
Well, this was clearly at the beginning of tutorial design because it's a completely separate thing rather than like as you see nowadays, you're just eased into the game. It's it's one kind of seamless thing that you go from tutorial into game. Not here's a tutorial, now you're in the game. And then you've learned, you show me in the tutorial where it shows you what you're meant to do in the first person, second
So this
level.
game that not 5 minutes ago, and people can rewind and hear you say that you said this was too modern,
It's just like
too modern, is now suddenly too archaic. Which is it? Make your mind up.
It's just not a special game, is it?
No, this is true.
Well, no, but so there's a tutorial which teaches you how to play the third person first level, and then you get to the second level, and it completely changes the perspective. It's a completely different game. Now you're Luke Skywalker sat in that little turret just shooting stuff, or you're flying the plane as well, your spaceship,
or a wing,
but you've got a small amount of maneuvering. You're just moving a cursor around, trying to blast as many asteroids and spaceships as you can.
You can maneuver in and out of the ship by changing the view. Did you press the button that changes view? No, I'm guessing that face says no, Philip. I didn't do that.
Why does it make you go in first person then? If you could do that,
just to mess with people like you.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. So wait a minute. So I think we've interrupted you. So it sounds like this used to be one of your favourite games ever. You've played it now in 2023, and you've decided that actually now it has. Now it's not. So good, even though it's got a little slippy.
I put it on for the purposes of this whole podcast and how we do it, and I have to do the majority of the recording of the footage and what have you. So I recorded me completing that easy level, the easy route. And annoyingly, it didn't record.
If I don't see it, I don't believe it.
I'll do it again, and I will persevere. But that's my point, and I just use the word persevere. I enjoyed playing it and getting to the end and defeating Andros, the boss at the end, and seeing the ending and the credits and being reminded of it now, like, wow, yeah, oh shit, it didn't record. I've got to do that again. I don't know if I want to do that again. Do you know what I mean? Oh God! And then it occurred to me that there are the warp zones, much like in any Nintendo games. There's secret warp zones. So as people are probably seeing now in the footage, if you're watching us on our YouTube channel, there are these secret warp zones. There's the black hole one, and there's another one I think where you have to defeat a fruit machine. There's some crazy extra levels. So I will record footage of the other levels. It's sort of easy, medium, and hard. But yeah, I did think after completing it, there wasn't an awful lot to come back to. But I think that's also been the precedent that was set with this first Star Fox, because then the next one, the N64 one, is much the same. It's not actually a hard game to complete. The Star Fox games, they aren't hard. They're about getting a higher score, about achieving a better time, or they aren't actually very large. They're not like playing, I don't know, Elite or any other sort of large space games. The Starwing, Starfox series, it was only ever called Starwing over here for the first one. They aren't really about large, sprawling, massive games. They're about small set pieces. I mean, that's why each level, some of them are only about a minute and a minute 15 seconds, I think, from some of the recordings. Some of them are very, very short. but I was surprised actually. It still played very well, controlled very, very well. It wasn't as slow as I was worried it was sort of going to be. I still think it's a very good game. I don't have a lot else to say about it. I just still think it's a very good game. I think it's a very good shooter. I think it's a very good series, and I don't really know why Nintendo haven't come back to it. They made the awful Wii U game. I don't even really particularly want to talk about it, and I'm probably not even going to show it because I can't be bothered to turn it on to record any footage of it. It was fairly terrible. And well, apart from Star Fox appearing in Smash Brothers and things like that, the actual characters have appeared in other games. And there's I think, wasn't there a Star Fox level in something else? I think there might be one or two other appearances, but an actual mainline, I think we are very much due a mainline Star Fox game. I think there was one other one. There was one on the GameCube, which was a sort of adventure game, Star Fox Adventure or something like that. There was another game, but it wasn't like this. It wasn't specifically the on rails type shooter that the original and the N64 and the Wii U one was. I think it's Star Fox Adventure, something like that. So I think we're due one, and of course there is Star Fox 2, but that never actually came out, the sequel to the one on the Super Nintendo, but it did eventually on the SNES Mini and is also available on the Switch. So I will probably put some footage on of that one just to see how it compares to the original. But yeah, I want a new one. I still think it's a great game. I still think there's scope there for another good Star Fox game. Perhaps it will come out on the Switch too. Who knows?
Yeah, I think for me, it's just that, like I say, yeah, it isn't because I keep saying I didn't play it, but I did play a version on the 3DS. But that wasn't a time in my life when I was gaming with like friends and other people. Like when you played this, it was that young age. It's the nostalgia that we're talking about, right? So I just feel that. Yeah, exactly. So you were a teenager when you were playing this. So I probably played this when I was in my 30s or something on the 3DS. So I just don't have that nostalgic feeling. And then it's so kind of it's a 3D game. It's so much like a modern game that it's not like the Spectrum games when I look at them with nostalgia. And I see them as something just completely different because they're just so, in general, so basic kind of thing, right? So could I bring myself to enjoy it? But my overall feeling is like, if I'm going to spend time playing a game, I would play a different one.
That's interesting. Yeah, it's a shame because for me, I think it's one of the best games, or certainly one of the best shooters. Certainly on the Super Nintendo, I would say one of the best shooters ever made would be a bit grand thing to say, but I think it certainly shows the Super Nintendo in an incredibly good light, particularly the technology and the Super FX chip and everything we talked about at the beginning. I think to create this type of game on that system is amazing. You know, for me, it holds up as an experience. I think I probably played it too much for me to now spend the same amount of time with it as I used to do, which is a shame. But there we are. I think a new one will hopefully come out. We'll see.
So, gentlemen, Zibloid, Lord of the Dark Vectors, and his Brilloid sting ships are upon us. They are an elite force of Trevuglian dongloaders, perfectly trained on this. Starwing from Nintendo. With its new FX chip, which allows near perfect simulation of all types of deep space combat. What is it?
Sir Richard. Portuguese cultural attaché waiting in the drawing room.
Oh no!
Starwing, intrepid intergalactic Nintendo.
I think to rectify this problem, then we really need to look at a Spectrum game, don't we, Chris?
Yeah, and you've already showed me the Spectrum game that we should talk about.
What is it?
And as soon as you showed me the cover, I got that feeling that wow, I'm back there It's like almost a smell or a taste, some kind of extra sense, the spectrum tingly sense of as soon as I saw that cover. Saboteur. Yeah. So for sure, I played that one when I was a kid. So that brings all the nostalgia back.
Excellent. So that's the game we're going to be looking at next.
And and I think it's going to be brilliant. It's going to be. This really is
Cool.
it. It's going to be much better than this. I did what I would have also liked to gone back to Death Chase. The origin of Starfox.
It's so not.
And
we should be looking at Saboteur, everybody. So join us next time where she'll be looking at Saboteur. Thank you for listening and watching and all those other the microphones are already falling off. Thank you for watching and listening and doing all those other lovely, wonderful things. Please do subscribe and like and all that jazz. And we'll see you next week for some ninjaing action while we're saboteuring it round the halls of wherever Saboteur goes.
If you'd like to hear more of this, then please do encourage us by subscribing. That way you won't miss out on the next episode. If you're listening to us on your favourite podcast platform, please give us 5 stars. And if you're watching us on YouTube, give us a thumbs up and leave a comment below about what game we should look at next. Feel free to follow us on Twitter. You can drop us a line using @SpectrumDaysPod, find us on our website, spectrumdays.com, and you can email us at hello@spectrumdays.com. And you can friend us on Facebook by looking up Spectrum Days.